What's up, everybody? This is Matt DeMarinis from White and Blue Review, bringing you another Creighton commentary video where we look back on one of the greatest games of the last decade for the Blue Jays. Today we have Creighton women's basketball's NCAA tournament win over Syracuse from 2013. And with us on this commentary vid, we've got Jim Flanery, head coach of the Blue Jays. Current and then, right? Been there a long time. And Carli Tritz, former player, now current coach, also been at Creighton a long time. They just have a tough time doing that. Guys, how you guys doing?
Doing well, Matt. Hanging in there.
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I don't know if you guys have ever done a DVD commentary before, but I don't know where we got this idea. We were just on a podcast one time. We're like, hey, let's do this. But you guys are my first player-coach guinea pigs for these, so I think it should be pretty fun.
Woo, let's go.
Good.
Were you surprised that Kayla Alexander won the tip, by the way, everybody?
Hey,
Or were you
honestly,
planning to play defense the first possession of the game?
Campy has very sneaky tactics that she goes into the person before she jumps up to get the tip. So I actually was a little surprised.
Yeah. For those uninitiated, Kayla Alexander is a WBA player right now, so that's what Creighton was dealing with right now with Syracuse.
So obviously you can tell they're a zone team, and we knew that going in, just like their men. And so we had prepped. We had prepped on shooting a lot of threes, you can tell. And early on, the offensive, we had a ton of offensive rebounds.
Yeah.
But I do think it was really beneficial that we knew, because we had struggled for as good a shooting team as we were. We hadn't been a great zone offensive team, but just knowing what our draw was and being able to work on zone offense the whole week, I felt like was pretty impactful in the ultimate outcome of the game.
Mm. What was the defensive matchup? Maybe just game plan specific. Who I don't know. I know they had Sykes, who I think was a freshman in this game, so she ended up turning into a pretty good player. But was Alexander the basically number one person on your guys' game plan?
Yeah, I mean, I just look back like all three of their starting guards were freshmen at the time. Well, I'm sorry, that's not true. Well, maybe. But Sykes is a super athlete. She has played in the WBA for Atlanta for a few years, but more of an athlete at the, as a freshman. They had a really good shooter, Butler, and then Alexander. So really, probably three kids were primary on the scouting report, and that would be Butler, nothing, no open threes. Sykes, we got to try to stay in front of and keep her off the glass, and then obviously Alexander, trying to give help on her in the post.
Mm-hmm. This is Quentin Hillsman in his pre GQ days, huh? He must have looked over. He must have looked over at Flan down the other side and said, "I got to step my game up with my wardrobe."
Yeah.
I remember prepping for this, and we watched a ton of Villanova beforehand. Remember that, Flan?
Yeah.
Like you said, we did work on threes, but I didn't show up until later.
It looks like you guys are just
rebounding was a huge.
Yeah, it looks like you guys are shooting for offensive rebounds right now.
Yeah. I mean, I watched the first few minutes yesterday just to get ready for this, and I felt like we were even more nervous because we had pretty good shots, but they were bricking so bad that they were really just offensive rebound opportunities. And that's what you worry about, when you play in an NCAA tournament game, especially when you're playing against a team that's going to make you shoot a ton of perimeter shots. But I do think that the offensive rebounds, I think, really gave us hope, because I think if we would have been one and done as poorly as we shot it early, I think our our mojo would have been a little different.
Hey,
And
Carli.
remember how many good looks we got? Like, we just got so many good looks. Even that one right there, another one. So that helps your confidence too. It's not like we were forcing tough shots late in the shot clock or, out of our rhythm. We just were clanking them off the backboard or airballing them. So.
Hey, Carli, I wonder from a player's perspective. I know it was kind of funny this year because these are the last games you guys played, both the men and women in the Missouri Valley, and both of you got matched up with a Big East team, a current Big East team, in your first round game. I think the men played Cincinnati. You guys played, obviously, Syracuse. Like, were the players extra juiced up to, I don't know, maybe introduce themselves to the league that they were going to? Was there any, I don't know, hype about going to the Big East and maybe proving yourselves against a team that's on the way out the door, I guess?
Yeah, I remember it wasn't official yet, but there were so many rumblings of that it was probably going to happen. And once the players started hearing about it, it's kind of hard to control that rumor. So I remember thinking, like, we're watching all these Big East teams prepping for Syracuse. So it was actually a nice intro into the league for the next year because we had watched, like I mentioned, Villanova, and then you're playing Syracuse. And, we didn't know who exactly was going to still be in the Big East. Obviously, Syracuse left. So. But, yeah, there's definitely a sense of, let's show these guys we're not just a mid-major and we're good enough to play against them next year if we do end up going. And not just play against, but compete against them, win championships, and hold our ground. And so when you brick a lot of shots early, that didn't help our go out and show up mentality. But we showed them, just there's there on the glass again right there. I thought we were all over the glass and mentally tough, which is
Yeah, you definitely made the most of your first impression in the second half.
Yeah.
We do have commercials, so it's okay. Don't panic. We just talk through these.
So what do you think we are from the field right now, Matt? About 1 for 9?
Oh my, yeah. I don't know. You're probably more than 9, honestly. You probably missed 9. Reasonable.
Yeah. I think going back to defense, I think my recollection is that our primary philosophy, especially when their starting point guard was on the floor, was to give help off of her primarily. Fondren was their starting point guard, and really I think we were in mostly a 1-to-4 switch situation. So we were willing to switch 1 to 4 because you could see their starting lineup. They were 5'11" and down. So the challenge is, okay, when I get switched on to the point guard, now I got to keep in mind that I'm the helper on the post. So I think that's something to watch as the game plays out, is what did we do? And the other one that we wanted to help a little bit off of were some of their 4 players. So in their starting lineup, that would be Hall. But we were a little bit worried about her on the offensive glass. So it was more of a dig and recover sort of situation. But I think defensively, those are things to watch. Our switches 1 to 4, and then where did we give help? Where were we comfortable giving help on to Alexander?
Mm-hmm. What a major first impression for me when I was rewatching this earlier, like last week, was how quick Sarah Nelson's feet are defensively, and she just, I don't know, how versatile was she? How creative could you be defensively? Because your post player could switch those ball screens and stay in front of a ball handler and move well, and then I'll obviously use her length to bother smaller players.
Right. Well, I think Sarah's one of the best players when you factor in everything. I think offense, defense, a facilitator as a 4 player. She's one of the best players we've ever had all around, I think, and defensively just as much so. And then just her, even like right now, she's going to take Alexander in the post. So just her versatility defensively. I remember the year before when we played St. John's in the NCAA tournament. I thought she did a heck of a job on their stud post because we were undersized that year. Remember, we started Danae Moore at the 4, and she was 5'10", and Sarah guarded a lot of 5s that year. And this year she guarded a few more smaller players, but she still had the versatility to go guard a big.
Mm-hmm. Carli, what was playing with Sarah your whole career? What impressed you the most about not only the talent that she had, but the player she kind of developed into being the kind of the all-around Swiss Army knife for you guys?
Yeah, she's just a pit bull out there. I mean, she's that person on your team that you whoops as we're watching me turn it over. She's just someone you want on your team. She's the worst to play against in practice and the best person to have by your side. And I think that had always been the case from freshman year to senior year. And like you said, she just gained confidence and obviously developed and got better naturally. But when you add that in with just her fight and her will to win, her toughness, I mean, that's a really deadly combo. Like Flan talked about, it made her one of the best players and most versatile players we ever had. And she just wasn't afraid to get physical and just get in there and be with the big girls down low, but also be finesse and skilled enough to be in the perimeter. And I just think that's a rare combo nowadays. So playing with that was really fun. And then she's always the one to pump you up, whether she needs to get in your face and kind of hype you up that way or keep supporting you until you're going to be all right. And she does have a soft side to her. She gets a rough rap, but she's very supportive and gives you confidence as a teammate.
Mm-hmm. That was the one thing I think stood out to me just in trying to identify intangibles with her was even in the Big East. I think whenever there was a player who kind of brought it to her, she never backed down from that. You know, some players kind of would maybe, I don't know, get a little bit intrinsic with the physicality and let that kind of overwhelm them. But she always seemed to kind of match whatever fight was being brought to her.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There's Tritzy out there looking for a 3-ball real quick.
Yeah. So now we're in a 4-guard lineup. So we started, Campy and Sarah. And then we went, brought Lex in off the bench and played her with Sarah. And now we've taken Lex out and we put basically Carli's playing our 4, Carli or Ken. So a little bit better ball movement lineup, shooting lineup on the floor. And you can see Mackenzie got the possession before. Mm-hmm. Now the challenge with this group offensively will be to get somebody to cut because you see it's really just Sarah. But a good hit into the middle, a good kick out.
Yeah, I think Riss was actually your best cutter this year. I mean, most years, but definitely this year.
Yeah. And you see that's a bad turnover. We had a 3-on-1 and don't get a shot. Yeah. And yet, as poorly as we've played offensively, now we're down 5, but that's a big turnover when you've got a 3-on-1 and they end up getting an open 3 off the turnover.
I like how we're back into halves. I like how we're back into halves right now. This is can't remember the last time a women's basketball team played in halves.
We didn't have a 10-second backcourt violation, did we?
Nope, no backcourt, no 10-second backcourt. Which I remember thinking that we would have had some 10-second violations because our philosophy, in terms of scout was we don't care if we take a little longer to get it up. Let's just not turn it over against the press. So obviously that would change. That would have changed if the backcourt was in play back then. So you see they're running. Alexander's not in the game, and they're running a lot of ball screens and then just rolling that kid in.
Mm-hmm. The kid's got like 30 pounds on her. She just runs her over.
So
There's plans in-game coaching face. Everything looks concerning.
Ken's just whispering in my ear right there, saying, "Put me in, coach. I'm the only one who's made a basket."
What was this team like to coach? Because I know you guys were coming off the NCAA tournament and everything, so there was probably some expectations that you should be getting this game right now. But what were they like in terms of how they? Oh dang, Carli, geez. What were they like in terms? That was a deep one. What were they like in terms of how they kind of met those expectations and didn't let that become too much for them?
I think really good. Like you talked earlier about Carli, not starting at some point in that year and just being unselfish about it. But just even watching this now, I mean, we were a deep team, and so we had to be unselfish because we brought. I mean, just already in this game, we brought Alexis Akinatico off the bench. We brought Carli off the bench. We brought Jordan Garrison in off the bench. And now, right before this timeout, we had Sammy Jensen had come in the game. So that was a pretty deep team, and the versatility was great too, because like I said, we could play campy and have her guard big fives, or we could take her off the floor and play a little smaller with Sarah and Lex, or we could go even smaller and play Sarah or Lex with four guards, which is what we were doing here in these past few minutes. Just my recollection is I felt like, okay, we've guarded them okay so far. We need to get a little bit of more shooting in, a little bit more ball handling in with the guard. But I think the versatility of this team and the unselfishness was pretty good. I mean, I know what we were, and what we did in the non-con was really impressive to get us to the point where we got at large bid. So I think looking back, just the number of different ways that this team could win was cool.
Carli, I'm glad Flan brought that up about you coming out of the starting lineup, because I think this was the first year I actually covered you guys, and just in you're trying to learn about the team and everything. You're like, okay, Carli Tritz is the best player, and that's one of the things you think about. And then midway through the season, I think it was the Illinois State game on the road was the first time you came out of the starting lineup and came off the bench. I guess, first of all, what went into the decision to ultimately say it'd be better if you came into the game instead of started it? Do you remember that at all?
Talking to me or Flan for the
Yeah, sorry, Carli. I'm talking to Carli. My bad. Yeah, you.
I feel like I wasn't obviously the best player. I know that maybe that was on your preseason notes.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a natural decline of productivity. Is that safe to say, Flan? And just that alone and matchups, it wasn't really a surprise, honestly, that I got out of the starting lineup, and it was almost refreshing. It probably took some pressure off of me. It was kind of maybe an elephant in the room, like I'm not who I used to be, and I know that everyone kind of knows it. So the action that finally took place was to make that move, which was right and by all means better for our team. And just like I said, individually, it did take pressure off. I can come in off the bench and bring a spark and actually watch the game unfold and maybe pay attention to scout a little bit better. Cough, cough. I don't know. It helped a lot of people on our team, and just is a more natural fit and more natural flow. And especially now that I'm on this side coaching, you understand just lineups and substitutions and how a little change like that can really make a good ripple effect. So I think it was the right move, and our team handled it well. I didn't think there was any real bumps with it, or at least not that I remember. So, yeah.
From an emotional standpoint, did you deal with it okay, just, with yourself, or did it take you a while to kind of adjust to the player you were at that time versus the one that maybe was coming into the season with?
Yeah, I mean, that year was hard to handle emotionally, and I think I did a better job of it. Second half of the year, and my teammates were tremendous with that too. It's hard on them as well, and coaches. I mean, that's an adjustment, whether I'm talking about myself or someone else. I mean, when your quote best player is not the best player, I mean, you have to change your game plan. You got to change what plays you're gonna put in, just the scheme of your team. There's a lot of thought that goes into a season. It doesn't just start in November. It's obviously way before that, and I think emotionally that year was hard for me individually because that's hard to handle when you're that age. But the actual act of not starting, I felt like it was something I knew was probably coming. So you're always like sad about just like, yeah, that reality does kind of suck, but then you get over it because it's the right move and it kind of the inevitable happening.
Do you think it's part of the reason you're doing what you're doing right now? Do you think it unlocked something that maybe a star player wouldn't unlock this early in their career, and maybe it's the reason you're coaching at this age right now?
Yeah, I think the whole injury process and how everything unfolded with my career really, and I've talked about this before with you too, is just it opens your eyes just to other roles on the team, the other side of the ball, obviously, when I didn't play my senior year. But I think it helps me connect with different kinds of players. I mean, because I've been the injured kid, I've been the quote star, I've been the sixth person, I've been, you feel like you've changed roles, which helps you be a more dynamic coach. I'd like to think I try to use that for that relationship of it. And it just, I don't know, it makes you appreciate the people in your life also. So that always helps in whatever career you're going to be in, because you can't get through those. Because when you're in college, I mean, that's your whole world is basketball, and your world's really small. And so when something like that you think is shattering everything, it gives you a good perspective to step back and realize that there's a lot more to the game. So yes, it did help me see that side and remind me why you love the people you're playing with and people you get to coach now.
Well, when I know it was probably more in her senior year, because I remember when she did ultimately make the decision that she wasn't going to play anymore, she kind of took to that. I think she moved further down the bench from the players to the coaches, and she ended up grabbing a clipboard, and every day you would notice that she was kind of taking to the game from a different perspective. At what point in her career did you think she could make a good coach?
Yeah, good question. My early, I probably thought. I mean, Carli was an instinctual player, and she made a crack on her scout defense, because I think, sometimes when you're good and you have good instincts, you're a little less reliant on some of that other stuff, which I think she probably, like you said, I mean, my recollection of this year of Carli was that she was a smarter version. Yes, she couldn't do a lot of the physical things that she could do earlier, but she was a smarter version of that earlier Carli, because she had to be. She had to. I mean, I think she was a better defender in some ways because she had to be more versatile and in terms of being able to play different people scout wise. And I think the other thing that struck me was just her, she'd always been a good passer, but I think she even more so, this year when she wasn't as explosive and as good of a scorer, as I felt like she really did a good job of adjusting as a passer. So that's, to me, that goes to the ability to see the game. And, so really I think this junior year was probably really beneficial in terms of kind of putting her on a path toward coaching, because just because of the, like she said, the difference or the adjustment of dealing with injury, but also, hey, I got to play differently. I have to see the game differently. And I know she's cut on her performance and her decreased productivity this year, but it also was valuable. I mean, we don't, it wasn't the same level of value, but there was still a value. That's why she was still playing. So I don't know. I mean, as far as that goes, I would say this year was instrumental in terms of putting her on that path, but also me recognizing that she maybe was on that path.
Land, right now, this is Glen Sisk, the sports formation. I'm on here as well. At this point in the game, you were down 14-5 at one point, and you saw Mackenzie Fouillon start to heat up. She had 9 of your points. You also saw earlier that year her do something similar against DePaul, where she was just able to carry you offensively. At what point did you feel like you needed to go or focus the offense towards her, or did you?
Well, you can see we've run. Well, I don't know if you can see, but we've run some set plays against their zone, and she's typically been on that left kind of seam area, and she's just done a good job of ball fake. You see right there on that highlight, she fakes the extra pass, the defender moves, and then set and shoots it. So 2 of her threes were just ball fakes. So part of it is, we had her in the right spot, and part of it is she just did a good job of having her feet set, not taking herself out of balance when she was pass faking. Because I think against the zone, if you're not confident, that's what you can do. You can become too pass happy, and it is about, everybody says it, and it's really simple, but pass fakes against a zone are super important and super effective. So you see right there again, she's on that left seam. They did a better job of pushing up into her that time because they knew that she had all 4 of our field goals, right? Or 4 of our 5.
She had all points at that point. She had 11 points.
Yeah.
So
I think a big part of it is, and Mackenzie was coming off a good. I thought she played well in the conference tournament. So, and I think it goes back a little bit to what I said earlier. That the great thing about this team is they kind of had a recognition beating the hot player, and since nobody else was anywhere close to in a rhythm early, I thought she did a great job of recognizing, hey, I gotta shoot the ball, and her teammates did a good job of throwing the ball.
Carli, what about from your perspective when Mackenzie started to be able to perform it that way? How did things change for you on the court or for the rest of the players?
Oh, it just feels so good to finally see someone make a shot. I mean, I seriously remember a timeout we had early. I don't know if you remember this plan, but you were in good spirits and you're like, look, someone else is going to make a shot. We're going to be okay. And we, like you said earlier, we were getting good shots. And so for Kenzie to finally bust through and then you get a little animated, you get a little swagger to you, and it's very contagious. And just knowing where she was at was obviously something we would talk about in those little free throw breaks or when those small in-game huddles that the players get into. I mean, we're talking about Ken's make sure your feet are set, or Ken's, keep shooting. Not that you need someone to keep shooting when they're on fire. It's almost more for the rest of, hey, Ken's is hot, and we're talking about it. And then to what Flan said, I specifically remember we had drills where we're working on all week preparing where pass, ball fake, and then shoot it. And it's a tough shot when you don't work on it because you're taking, you're shifting your weight, or you're turning your shoulders maybe away from the basket, and then you got to re-square yourself and shoot it. So had we not worked on that much or emphasized it, who knows how confident we would have been doing those shots, especially Kenzie early that you saw. So I think that was huge, and we were looking for it. And, but her doing that was really fun as a teammate. Just keep feeding her. I'm pretty sure you're going to see some fun bench celebrations as the game goes on when she keeps scoring, so which I'm definitely a part of.
Hey, she crashed the glass good there, so she's not just trying to shoot.
Yeah, it's like Flan said, it's a versatile team, and especially when we're small like this, you can all pass. You're all athletic enough to shoot and rebound and do those things, and it's just fun to play with your friends when someone's doing that.
She's just in her bag right now, getting offensive boards, banging threes. Like,
there's the old me coming out. See, I got excited because Kenzie made another 3, and then I wanted to go for a steal.
you don't get 180 steals unless you gamble a little, Carli.
Right.
So, you know,
Was that Garrett? Was that Jordan?
you know, again, you see, we didn't turn the
Yeah.
ball over, so yeah. You know, we're taking a couple of the threes we've taken here are just a little deeper than we needed to. The one you saw before, Marissa, was a little deeper than she needed to
Right.
on a reversal. Jordan's was a little, and then Carli's got one in and out, but she's towed up. You see, we want, especially Jordan's not towed up.
I don't remember Jordan
again,
being towed up. I don't remember Jordan being towed up very often. She liked to shoot.
Yeah.
Logo.
Yeah. So you see, we've had some trouble. We've had some troubles in the half court with moving, you know, deflections, et cetera. But I do remember the one thing is we consistently talked about can't turn it over against our press. That's layups. Even though we've had some deflections and a couple turnovers in the scoring area, they haven't led to transition baskets. I think that was a focus too, was we need to be good. We need to at least get shots, and turnovers need to be, you know, inside the lane where they're, and again, now as I say that, we turn it over in the backcourt.
Mm.
I mean, to go back to Carli's earlier point about, you know, just how much we worked on, you know, our game prior to, you know, our in the conference tournament before we got the at-large was to Illinois State, and they played quite a bit of zone against us. I remember where we didn't, they were a 50-50 type team. They'd play some zone, some man, and I think there was a recognition after that game that we really just hadn't worked enough on, because we hadn't seen that much of it, and we had such a good shooting team that I just kept thinking, well, we don't need to work too much on it. It's about making shots. But I think it was a good lesson that even if you're a good shooting team, you need to work on zone offense maybe a little bit more than we did that year.
Tritzy?
There's one.
I contributed. I think that was the first field goal by someone else besides Kenzie.
I think so too.
Yeah, Campy had a free throw, right? And
Yes. Campy had a free throw. Carli had a 3.
I'm heating up. And not boxing out. Oh, yes, this game.
What do you think Jalen and Audrey would do against a zone like this? I don't even know if they play a zone against those two kids.
yeah, we've, you know, and again, part of it is we needed to be a little better at hitting the ball into the foul line area and then kicking it back out, because the 3 off the lateral pass is a little harder than the 3 off the inside out pass. As I'm rewatching this game, we hit it in there some. We hit it into that foul line, or, you know, mid post area some, and then got kickouts, but not as much as we needed to. A lot of these early 3 are lateral pass where you've got to catch and then face. Yeah. And again, those are 3s we can make, but it's still not as good a 3, and it's still a lot of times not as tight to the line as a 3 that goes into that foul line area. Sarah was so good at, you know, being not being sped up in that area. I felt like, you know, I know when Sarah graduated, one of the things I said about her was that we would really miss her against zones because she was so good about not getting sped up on foul line area catches. And the longer I've coached, the more I think that getting that ball into that elbow foul line area is really important against a zone, whether it's, for a player to make a dribble play or spray it back out to a shooter. But I think we've got to do a little bit better job of getting that inside out three.
I think we did a better job moving second half too. I mean, Blaine kind of talked about that, and you did too, Matt. That Marissa was our best cutter and sometimes our only cutter on some of those possessions. But I remember we were a little more active against their zone and our motion. We had people on the baseline making cuts, which makes defense turn their heads. And I think we did get into Sarah a little bit better on that elbow area. And she's so versatile. I mean, she can obviously score it from there too. So you got to collapse on her and give her the respect there. I do remember that we had a little bit better motion in the second half, just actual player movement.
I'm glad they showed this viewing party because I have a funny story from this. I'm pretty sure you guys know it, but because it is one of my favorite stories about you guys. So, obviously going into Selection Sunday, you guys lost in the NBC semis, so you weren't terribly confident that you were going to make the field. I think that's accurate, right? We all share that sentiment.
Yes.
So I don't know what it is about you guys in at-large teams. You guys like to be – they have to have some drama on Selection Monday. So but you guys had a viewing party though, so you were maybe still confident enough to bring the public in, but still nervous at the same time. So I remember you guys had a viewing party at DJ Sokol Arena, and so you're watching it on the projector, and I think Tessa was a freshman on this team. Am I mistaken on that?
That sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm standing off to the side. I'm not, sitting down with you guys or anything like that. I'm talking to Glenn. He's sweating like crazy because he's nervous too. And I think there was a list of teams that I had in mind that if I saw their names pop up, it meant bad news for you guys. You know what I mean? I think
Yes.
South
I remember
Florida.
this list.
Yeah, South Florida, I think, was one because I think you beat them that year. I think Kansas was one. Yeah, I think Kansas was one I was watching for. I think there was one other, maybe Florida State, maybe. I can't remember. But so I was watching, and when it was getting to the point where they were revealing the last, 12 or so teams. So it was getting pretty nerve-wracking time. And I remember I think I saw Kansas's name come up. Either Kansas or South Florida came on the board, and I said, "Oh shit!" I thought I was whispering it, but as Glenn says, my inside voice is really bad. So I said, "Oh shit!" And Tessa from 20 feet away, looked over at me because she heard me say it, and her face was like I had just kicked her puppy. She was so depressed when she looked over at me, and I couldn't hide it. I was just I just kind of made a little face where I was just it's all good, don't worry.
It's very accurate.
But in my mind, I was yeah, that might be it. You know what I mean? And I almost made her have a nervous breakdown in the middle of the selection show. But eventually, your name popped up, the very last name.
Well, there's pictures right before we got announced, literally, and I mean, we were all feeling the same way Tessa probably was. I didn't hear you, but I had felt that same way. Allie Jensen was sitting next to me, her head's in her hands, and you're feeling this sense of embarrassment because you're having a watch party, and then the next second, I think we get announced. But Twitter was just kind of becoming, popular and more live and into sports. I feel like that time, and I remember, of course, being one of the first ones to have Twitter on our team. But I remember seeing that a tweet, someone was like, if you see these names pop up, it's not good for Creighton or something like that. And I remember those names, and of course I told my teammates, I'm like, okay, we can't see these names. They all popped up. So
yeah. That was probably me because I was like, yeah, this is not good. Flan, what was going through what was your stomach feeling like? What's it like for you to watch that stuff? I don't know how your heart's handled these selection Mondays you guys have gone through.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, I feel like, but my recollection is our RPI was just inside 40, right? Was it 38, 9?
Yeah.
Which in the normal year is, I just felt like the tough thing is we were in the Missouri Valley, and you just don't know. It was rare to get an at-large bid, and even if we had made the finals of the cup tournament, I felt like that gave us a better opportunity. But I know we'd lost once to Illinois State in the regular season, so would they take a team that had lost 2 out of 3 to Illinois State, who was a good team but wasn't going to get in, and then obviously as late as it went into the into the process, that was the tough thing. But I felt my recollection was I felt pretty good, but not in a more of a 60 to 70% likelihood, not a 90%, but not that it was going to be a long.
I will chime in here. On the bus ride home, coming back from the Missouri Valley Conference tournament, I was emphatically trying to tell Flan not to have a watch party. And he said he and Allie Jensen decided to had a conversation and made the decision that the watch party was going to happen. And I was sitting there going, Flan, it's a bad look to have tears on college students on TV. And Flan was right, as usual, and Carli's right. I'm more of a pessimist, but I don't recall you with your comment, Matt, but I absolutely recall that bus ride. And as we came down to the last few minutes, I will be honest, tears were in my eyes because I was sitting there going, I'm going to have to ask some of these young ladies to do interviews after they don't get selected. And then they got selected, and there were tears for different reasons.
Right.
That play was awesome, by the way, if you guys just noticed. Sarah's and one. I remember feeling, I don't know, that was a very big moment for our team. One, because that was only the second other field goal someone besides Kenzie had scored or something like that. And I don't know, and we kind of go as Sarah goes emotionally sometimes, or how she feels about a game. I mean, just a natural leadership thing. And if Sarah's not as intimidated, I don't know, those natural feelings that those people in leadership type positions can give the rest of the team. So I remember that and one, and her celebrating, and our team kind of, like I said earlier, getting a little confidence and a little swag. That was really big for us.
Yeah, Flan's drawn up some gems out of timeouts throughout his career. I've noticed that. What's it like listening to a calm Flan where he's just drawing on the whiteboard and basically going A to B to C, as opposed to yeah, as opposed to when he's screaming about lifting and keeping your hands up, staying in front.
There's one thing that is like, how like sports are so uncontrollable, but there's one thing I swear that I always know is going to happen is the right person is going to get the right shot out of a Flanery timeout. He's going to put that kid at their favorite spot, or the ball's going to, it's just the way he draws them up, X's and O's, and how you can get defense to shift. And wouldn't you agree, Fran, that 99% of your out of timeout plays are not plays that we've worked on before or in our playbook? I mean, he's usually playing off of who's hot or playing off of what he remembered the defense did on a different type of set or different, similar type of screen action. So those are things that you just know something's good's going to happen, so you're very locked in. And you try to remember it, and I'm not going to lie, I'm not always the best person out of timeouts that was in the exact spot he wanted. I'm sure he's going to bring up a story, so I'll let him have that moment. But yeah, an after timeout from Flan is usually a high-quality look.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the longer you coach, the more you should be comfortable with a whiteboard in your hand. And, because we're more of a motion team offensively and because we always kind of played a deeper rotation, I always feel like you kind of have to you kind of have to be able to do that because you might not have a lineup. You can only work on so many things in practice, so many situations, and you don't know what your lineup's going to be. And to Carli's point, you don't know who's going to be hot. I mean, it's not necessarily your best player or your second best player. I mean, you look at this game right here, Mackenzie is a good player, but she wasn't necessarily option one or, one or two in this particular year. But she's hot, so you just maybe put her in the spot. But, the play you talked about is just that's just what I was talking about, just getting the ball to Sarah in the foul line area. And just, we've probably not forced it there as much as we needed to in this first half. And by force, I don't mean, just blindly throw it there. I mean, ball fake it somewhere else and then throw a bounce pass there. She doesn't have to be wide open. She just has to be open enough to catch it. And I think, if I'm guessing, that's probably one of the things that we're going to talk about at halftime is just we've got to get the ball to her more there because, yeah, we're getting threes, but they're not always great threes. And other than Ken's, nobody's making them. So we got to get a little bit better threes. But again, the concept of a ball fake there, Sarah caught it from the left side, ball faked it to the right, and then dropped it down and just made a good basketball play going to her left. So just one of the things you appreciate about Sarah, she's going to take what she's supposed to do and make tough basketball plays.
Hey, before we get into I don't know how much time we have here, but to get into the second half strategy, but I don't know if, Flan, you can recall maybe the first half of your career versus what it's turned into now, but, you look at you made the tournament in 2012, 2013, you went back-to-back in 17 and 18, had enough talent to do it. These last 2 years certainly would have been, I think, in it this year for sure, but maybe a little nervous selection Sunday again, but I think he would have got in. But before that, like those first, that first decade was full of a bunch of close calls, but, just coming up short in the end. Like, I remember, I just don't know, what was it like for you when you finally got over the hump? And I know you don't like talking about yourself, but, with the program and as a head coach, what did that feel like for you once you finally got this thing to the next level? Because it really, once you got there, you've kind of sustained it because you've been back to the tournament several times, even as an at-large team.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we've just the recognition of how hard it is. I remember sitting in the press room after we beat Drake in the championship game to go to our first conference or first NCAA tournament. And I remember saying how hard it was because we had lost so many, in a 4-year period, we'd lost 3 heartbreakers. And 1 year probably we were, we weren't good enough to go. We were the 8th seed, the 6th seed playing Drake, who was the 8th seed.
Oh, wow.
So that's not necessarily, a team that was worthy of going to the NCAA tournament, but I also felt like we had several before that and even after that were worthy but didn't quite make it. And it usually came down to, again, the Missouri Valley wasn't quite good enough from an at-large perspective, and we didn't, we scheduled the right way. We just needed to win 1 or 2 more in the non-con to put ourselves in that position. And so, I think certainly getting into the Big East has helped us because it's given us a chance to not necessarily be as great in November and December. You have to be good there, but you don't have to be great there. And a lot of just because we run a motion offense and we play and we have to develop kids, we're not going to necessarily recruit, a top 30 roster. What you do in January and February is a little more important now, and we're able to overcome a little bit more than maybe we were able to overcome back in that time. But some of it's luck, like we certainly could have gone a couple times. Even the first couple of years, we won the NIT. Just unfortunate. The first year I coached, we were in the semifinals in the NIT, and then the second year we won the NIT. And in that year that we won the NIT, we had a couple players who were suspended because they played in a summer league that wasn't sanctioned. We thought it was sanctioned, and they ended up missing a game against Northwestern. That was a really kind of a bad loss, and might have kept us, that one game might have kept us out of the NCAA tournament, and yet it served to help us win the NIT. So we had 2 or 3 really good teams early, and then we had a group of teams that were just kind of snake bitten in conference tournaments.
I actually got your autograph for that NIT game. I was on the floor after you guys won.
Really?
Well, then
I don't know if Flanery signed so many autographs he doesn't remember, but
That's a cool story. I didn't know that.
yeah, I don't know. It was wild because it was like a party, I don't think anybody really – no one really expected a game to be played at the Civic at that time. So we just like my dad and his buddy and maybe I took a friend or whatever, and we went up there. You guys were just rolling in the postseason that year, and I don't even think that game was close if I remember right. But you guys won, and everybody kind of came on the floor, like fans and everybody, like celebrated all with the team. It was crazy. I remember I like just touched the trophy, and they were all walking around with like nets and everything like that, and I got Flane's autograph and everything. It was really cool. Flane was such a nice guy.
It's funny when you bring that up because just watching the first I told you I watched the first 3 minutes of this yesterday, and the number of offensive rebounds that we had early in this game was really reminiscent of that UNLV game in the final. In fact, I remember, we had gone on the road to win 2, and then we got to play the last 3 at home. So UNLV, I think, had been in Ames and had won probably a minor upset, had beaten Iowa State. So obviously it made sense for them to just come on over to Omaha. And it was the same thing early. I think we had 5 shots at the basket on the first possession, and just our energy, the crowd, the energy level. And I think we might have missed them all. I don't remember, but I just remember turning to the bench and saying, yeah, we're going to win. Our energy was going to be so much greater than theirs. I remember that I don't think that we shot the ball all that well, but as you said, we won that game pretty comfortably. I think it was 21. But really, and I think, I don't think I probably felt the same way in this Syracuse game, but I know you feel encouraged when your team is winning the hustle plays early, even if it's not producing points. Because there's a difference between being down, in this game we were down 14-5, but we've probably taken however many more shots than they are versus it's 14-5, and you really feel like it's because they're making more winning plays, and there's things that they're doing to really disrupt what you're trying to do.
Carli, what's the game plan for the second half? I don't know if you recall what Flane's objectives were, but you guys shot 36 threes for the game, but 24 of them were in the first half. So obviously you guys cut that into thirds in the second half. What were some of the adjustments you guys made at halftime here to deal with Syracuse's length?
I do think we got the ball to the foul line more, like Flane mentioned. We continued to shoot good looks from threes, but the nervousness and not settling obviously wears off as the game goes on. So that's probably the biggest reason why we didn't shoot as many threes. And I do think our player movement was a lot better. You're actually making them turn their head to guard you versus everyone on the perimeter and one person cutting like we talked about or like you saw earlier in the first half. Sarah got going a little bit from the foul line. We also had some transition baskets, got a couple easy baskets that loosened things up too. I don't think we had any in the first half that I remember. I mean, we had the opportunity, 3-on-1, turned it over. So getting 2 or 3 transition baskets was huge in this game. What am I missing, Flan?
Yeah, I think this, what you said about nerves. I mean, I think, you had the 1-3, but what did you say? We took 24 threes in the first half, and Mackenzie made 5. So the rest of the team was
Right.
whatever, 1 for however many Mackenzie didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. You basically have one player go off and you're tied at half. I think that's as a coach and as a team, you got to feel pretty good about the fact that as long as we don't turn the ball over, and defensively we've forced them to kind of take a lot of contested post up plays, and they've made some, but they haven't been overly efficient. And just seeing what our defensive game plan has done is just basically taken away by switching as many screens as you do. You take away ball reversals a little bit more, and post like ball reversal because it allows them to seal, and you can see that's a decent part of their offense is they want to reverse the ball or even just high low it. They want to run a ball screen into a hit into the center of the floor, and then they want to look inside. But I feel, you got to feel pretty good about what our game plan is defensively, and then just going back to not turn it over against their press. If we don't do that, we're going to be good. And finally, like I've mentioned 1,000 times already, just get the ball to foul line a little bit more, especially when Sarah's that foul line kid.
Mm. I think Marissa actually has a good second half here. Marissa and Sarah both. How did you get them loose offensively?
Well, Marissa, you can tell. I mean, great freshman year, great career, but you can tell she's really tight the first half because not only has she not made a shot, but she's turned it over a couple times. She's probably because she didn't, she missed a couple early, but she's just been hesitant the first half. And, my recollection is she didn't play as well in the conference tournament. So I think just getting that first half underneath her here as a freshman kind of, just getting those nerves behind her. But I think she went into this game not having played quite as well in the conference tournament as she had played throughout the year. So, but yeah, I mean, I think overall, if this was a football game, time of possession would be in our favor. And I think anytime that's the case, I think that's another factor. I don't think it comes into play in a lot of games, but I do think that once in a while, that's something that you, at least as a coach, you're thinking about.
Carli, for you, as a player, when the rest of your team really didn't shoot well, but you go out in the second half and realize you're tied, does that make it easier? Like, we're not going to play that poorly and we're not behind. So does it make it easier as a player for yourself, for Sarah, for Marissa to go out and not have as much pressure?
Oh, absolutely. And just like Flan said, I thought we outplayed them. We were tougher for the most part. I mean, how many boards did we have? We took charges. We're fighting for, D boards. We're not just, everything's, I think we're making it tough for them. And just like you said, if you're in the game tied, especially, and your best players haven't even played well either, Marissa, Sarah, and Kenzie's, holding the load for everybody. I mean, that you have a better chance in the second half because the chances of us playing that poorly again all those players playing that poorly again is slim. We have experience. I know Marissa was young, but there's a lot of experience out there. If you look at the starting lineup and the kids off the bench, I mean, it's not like we were super young and hadn't been there before. We knew that NCAA tournament games are close, and come down to 1 or 2 possessions. So we just kept fighting. So to be tied and not play that well on offense was something we weren't as worried about based on how things are going. Here's one of the transition baskets I was talking about. Kenzie has one. Sarah gets one later. But those baskets are huge when you can't score. When you can't shoot. Gave one up, right back again. But
I think you guys had 12-0 boards on 22 missed shots in the first half, which is absurd.
yeah.
But you made more shots in the second half, so you didn't have to rebound as much.
You just feel like you're playing well enough that you should be in the game, but you have a lot more better basketball in front of you. And getting to the free throw line and getting easy baskets early in the game or early in the second half, like you're seeing here with Marissa and Kenzie, that's so big for those scorers on your team to get those easy baskets. We talk about it all the time with, especially this year, Jalen's and Temmie's, getting them something easy early just makes the basket look that much bigger.
Mm.
Yeah, you look at that defensive possession that Sarah had that led to that steal. She switched the screen onto a guard, stayed in front of the ball. Then she trapped the post, got it back out of her hands, and then she did a great job of gapping that dribble, and then Kenzie gets that steal. But, it's just what she did defensively in that possession that is just really a big part of what we can do. You talked about her versatility, so.
And Campy's doing a good job forcing Alexander to not catch it 2 feet in the paint and on the block. Sometimes when you're not better than a post player, just athlete or as skilled, you got to make sure they're not catching it in easier spots. You got to make those shots as tough as you can. And there's few players I've played with or coached that are stronger than Camphouse. So she's able to use that and push her out, just to at least make that shot tougher for her.
Hey, you got a lucky bounce there.
Yeah.
The basketball gods are starting to reward your effort, it looks like.
Yeah, see? Good things come back around.
But like Carli talked about, just getting to the free throw line, got those 2 free throws that Marissa hit, gives her a little more confidence to shoot that, because that wasn't really very deep in the shot clock even.
Mm.
That's a tough call.
I do remember this game was at 11:20 start time, Carli, and that was in Knoxville.
It was early.
10:20 game, and
You would like that, Flan.
Yeah.
You didn't have to stress all day and
I know.
go to
Well, that's opposed to the UCLA one, right, where you mistimed the traffic constantly because you were trying to plan for that LA rush hour or whatever.
Yeah.
I think the UCLA game was at night, wasn't it? Wasn't it one of the last games of the day?
Yes. There's a great look at that backdoor cut, huh?
Oh, the movement, the mobility.
They play by play to, kind of force defense to have to help and too committed to her. And watch this. I mean, for no quicker than Allie is, just a good change of speed. But yeah, obviously we've loosened up offensively, but I really like what we've done defensively the first, few minutes of this half too. I feel like we've made them go deeper into the clock. We've really kind of collapsed on Alexander on every catch. And offensively, just, Kenzie's run out and risk into the free throw line. We had 6 points in the paint, 4 or 6 points in the paint the first half, and to get a layup and 2 free throws to start the second half, I think changes your mindset a little bit. So you see Carli basket cut there versus just hitting on the 3-point line. A lot of good things.
Hey, Carli, when you're looking at that, I guess, is that part of just going against the length for 20 minutes and then just trying to figure out ways to be effective? Because I don't remember many basket cuts from anybody in the first half, and then you hit off one right there real quick, and it didn't look like you were hesitating much on doing it. You felt like that was a way that you guys could score. Did you realize that once you just got to experience what their length was like?
Well, I was used to Flan had put me on the baseline versus zones. I feel like quite a bit that year, from what I remember. So I felt like I'm more comfortable on the baseline versus slashing through, cutting. At least that year, just because I'm not as explosive. I'm not as good of an individual scorer. But on the baseline, you can be a little bit sneakier. You can make defense shift or actually turn to find you versus being in front of them. So I don't know if that was more of a basket cut mentality or we're kind of breaking their token pressure and I'm behind on the baseline, and just finding those gaps. Sometimes we talk to our kids all the time now about it's not about just cutting. It's about how you cut and where you stop and getting in those pockets between defense. And even if you don't get the ball, I mean, you can draw two defenders and open something up for someone else. But if you just kind of blindly cut or cut to the defender, especially in a zone, they're just going to pick you up and you don't make them shift or move. So we just got fortunate that Kenz's eyes were up and, and she's looking ahead versus, having her head down or fighting against pressure. But I think it's because we take our time in the backcourt too. You saw Allie dribble back to relieve pressure and then kicks over to Kenzie. So she's able to defense is shifted and she's able to attack just like you saw right there with Sarah and Ken's. So once you're at least even or ahead, or you might have an odd break, you get in a little bit more attack mode or a little bit aggressive. So again, I'm on the baseline again right now.
Yeah, you're rolling. Yeah, you're open there too. Yeah.
It's not the fact that you get the ball. It's just, can you occupy a defender to open someone else up? And if you get a layup, great.
There's my favorite rule in sports where someone calls a timeout and the media timeout happens to do that. I used to hate that.
Yeah.
God bless quarters.
I know. I do love quarters. I think it's awesome. Guys' game needs to shift.
I know.
Can you make that happen, Matt?
I tried, man. I can't. I think Mac is starting to break on that. So from his perspective, I think he's about ready. I remember when you guys first switched, he was like, "Why?" And then I think I started asking him more and more. I think the way I phrased the question lately is like, "You're the only level of basketball that doesn't play quarter system." So what's going on here?
Yeah. It's that extra media timeout that they get where they can sell more advertising spots.
What was the biggest adjustment for you coaching 220s versus 410s? Was there a big jump? I remember some coaches struggled with some of the rules that were changed along with the ball advancement, timeouts and whatnot. What was the adjustment like for you doing that as a coach?
Well, I think the biggest thing we found is just work more on situations. You've got 3 end of quarters and the opportunity for 2-for-1s or to sub and go offense defense or maybe press at the end of a quarter to try to get a 2-for-1. Just that's the biggest thing to me. And then as much as we thought when they came out with the advancement of the ball at the end of games, I thought that'll come into play once or twice, maybe 3 times a year. And shoot, it seems like it comes into play 3 to 4 to 5 times a year instead, which I think has made our game more exciting too. But certainly the biggest thing I like about the quarters is the reset of the fouls. I just think it's when you can go back after 10 minutes and not have to shoot free throws or be in the bonus for 7 or 8 or 10 straight minutes. I think that's a win for players, coaches, and fans. Mostly for fans.
Yeah, definitely mostly for fans.
As a player, I didn't play in the quarter system, but I know in halves, when you have a bad half as a team or an individual, I mean, it's definitely a mental, you can flush that half and move on to a second half. So now if you have a bad quarter, you can get over that quicker, or you can mentally okay, that was a bad quarter. Now I have, 3 more quarters to make up for that. I know that's a factor for our players mentally, and it's just an easy way when you get that break to kind of reset yourself and restart. Come on, she's straight up. I never whined. Only now when I'm rewatching it.
Did you ever get teed up as a player, Carli? I can't remember the last time a Creighton player has gotten teed up.
Nope, I don't think I've ever been teed up.
Yeah. Flan, has a player ever been teed up under your?
Oh shoot!
Look at that. Oh yeah, we've had player attacks probably.
Really?
And yeah, never Carli though.
I'm
Flan, as a kid, I remember you getting like teched every game. But then when I started covering you, I think you've only gotten one, like against South Dakota State. I remember that one.
knock on wood. At Nebraska, that was a good one.
Yeah, I had one in the St. John's Conference tournament game this year.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. Well, that was because Jalen got blasted in the face and no one did anything about it. So.
Yeah, good call, Matt. You look at Kippy. She's like, yeah, I was straight up. Pushed their press up. They've pushed their press up. Now they're on the ball. So more 3/4 court press in the first half, and definitely more full court in the second half. That was a good play. Got the ball in the middle. Got Lex a wide open 14-footer.
Sarah flies in, gets an extra possession for us. I mean, those things don't show up in the stat book, but like those are so huge. She did fill the stat sheet and she did those plays.
Yeah.
And playing with that is really fun.
You know what this is kind of reminding me of? And I don't know if you guys agree or not, but they're playing a little bit like Seton Hall does sometimes, where they just like get in your face 94 feet and then back off into their zone. But the idea with their defense is they're trying to create some turnovers so they can score easy buckets.
Uh-oh. I thought I was about to get cooked right there.
I remember Seton Hall did that. Seton Hall did that to you guys this year, and it didn't. I mean, I think you guys hit 7 threes in the fourth quarter because they kept dropping into the zone after you guys broke their pressure. Feels like that's what Syracuse is doing right now.
Yeah. And you see, look at how physical Alexander is being with Lex.
Makes to catch it far out. There we go.
Always got the call, 3 seconds.
Sarah actually, I remember talking to Sarah about this game maybe a couple of years after it happened, and she remembers Lex having a really good game defensively on Alexander just because of her physicality and everything. I don't know if that registered to you guys in the game at all, how much she was making Alexander work for what she had to do.
Yeah.
Great. Again, we hit the ball at foul line. We had a cutter and got an open layup. There's Carli, full speed.
Yes.
So this second half's been, we hit them, they came back and hit us, and now we've got a little bit of is that 6-0 back at them. So.
Cross screen, down screen.
Yep. You see Carli and Marissa, decent communication. Carli, you're taking over on the glass. Is that two rebounds?
In the right place.
Yeah.
Like Dennis Rodman, I studied their shots. I knew the trajectory before the game. I knew you'd appreciate that, Matt.
No problem. Yeah, definitely.
You see,
Carli in the open floor is super good too. She's got such good vision. She's just a playmaker.
Oh.
Again, great job by Sarah on the glass.
They just called that out of bounds, really? Okay.
Looked like a hip check to me.
I agree.
That was freshman wrist. She wasn't as strong as later in the later in her career risk. Good job by Jordan of getting up and making him take a little time to initiate.
Ooh.
Offensive, right?
You guys have gotten on the floor more than you have in
Well,
recent years. You got all these finesse players now. Liv's the only one who wants to fall.
Scrappy little section. I feel like we're winning a lot of 50-50 balls.
Oh, definitely.
Offensive rebounds. I mean, those things are, if you're Syracuse, you've got to be, we're annoying them right now, or we're getting in their head and taking them out of the rhythm, which is probably something. Oh gosh! Right as I say that, a turnover comes.
I was just about to say, I don't think they've turned you over yet in this half in there. You're definitely handling their backcourt pressure a lot better. That's for sure.
Yeah, that was great look by Lex and good timing. So if you notice in this half, we've gotten, especially when we've had Lex and Sarah in the game, we've gotten into more of a 4 across. And the idea is we want to try to get it to that elbow area to either one of those two, and then have the other one dive down the opposite lane line. And that should open either that lane line cutter or the opposite wing. So I think we did that a couple times in the first half, but not as much. And Kempy just wasn't quite as comfortable on a face-up, whereas you see Lex and Sarah both a little bit more comfortable on that square-up.
Mm-hmm.
And then looking at that cutter. And the other thing I think you noticed, through the first part of this second half is we're a little bit more aggressive trying to score off the press.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not just breaking it and then running offense against the zone. We got a couple buckets, before they can get aligned in their zone. So I don't know if we talked about that at halftime or we just said let's go ahead and try to do that since we're not making threes.
What was it like playing on Tennessee's court? Just knowing what the history of the game. I think Pat was gone by then, but the history of the game and what Tennessee, their stature in it, and getting to play on their home floor. What was that like?
She was there. She was in a box. Remember, Flan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. But that was definitely towards the end. But just that arena is so cool, and the checkered, orange-white checker in the end zones, and then some of their banners over their tunnels. But a lot of history in there, and to be on Pat Summitt court was pretty cool, pretty historic. It's one of my favorite arenas that I've played or coached in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would say so.
Flynn, what about you? Did you get caught up in the history at all playing there?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty. I'd been in there for a Final Four before, but obviously we had never played there. I remember we were in the volleyball locker room, weren't we, Carli, for both the games, and that was pretty cool. They had like theater type seating in the volleyball locker room, wasn't it, or no?
Yeah. There was like a room before the locker room, with chairs in there, and
lots of snacks and fruit. I remember too, right?
And an aux cord. We definitely took advantage of the volleyball surround system before and after the game. I can tell you that. You remember the song "The Wobble"? Play all the time at weddings. That was the hit.
Yeah. So you see, they're flying.
Looks like they're going with a bigger. Are they going with a bigger lineup here now to try to beat you guys up on the boards?
Well, they've been better on the offense. You can tell they've struggled to score, and they've been better on the offensive glass in the second half. They probably realized we weren't that good in transition, but we're battling. We're just athletic and. Alexis had that left baseline shot a couple different times now.
That's good look.
That was really crisp ball movement on that possession. I always feel like there's ball movement with purpose, and there's ball movement where you're like just catch it and then you're thinking. It seems like that possession in the second half. There's more purpose with maybe having an idea in your mind already after you catch it.
Yeah, you're just more confident, more comfortable with what the zone's looking like, and you've actually made some shots this half too, so that helps with team confidence usually.
Mm-hmm.
Carli, what did we call the bench squad?
Bench mob.
Wow.
Bench mob, yeah.
It definitely went into effect next year too.
They added a few more recruits to it.
The bench was great. I do remember that. I mean, from start to finish, because if you don't have that energy when the rest of the team is 1 for 15,
Yeah.
you know, who knows how loose we are, how confident we're staying.
Ooh.
Kenzie obviously didn't struggle with that at all.
No.
But it's awesome. I mean,
What happened?
I'd say mine froze a little bit.
Mine's freezing.
Yeah, I think this is on the actual recording though. This isn't on ours. I wonder when it kicks back in. I've watched the end before, so I know the end happens. There we go.
Did you guys restart?
Yeah, mine restarted.
Okay, mine did too. All right.
How many total turnovers did we have this game, Matt? Do you know?
19.
Or Glenn? 19, yeah.
Yeah. 11 in the first half,
Like-
8 in the second.
Yeah, it's more than I thought we did.
There we
More than
go.
I remember. Again, that's great ball movement.
Yeah, this is you're just piecing them
Well,
up.
ball in the baseline, Matt, right there.
Yep.
But again, Sarah slows down enough in that foul line area to make a good decision, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, even though they're doing a good job on the offensive glass, our guards are peeling back to try to rebound. It's just, you know, they've won a few more of the 50-50 balls in the second half than they did in the first half. But I still like our fight. I feel like our guards didn't leave us. You know, they peeled back pretty well in this game. So we're running this loop thing where we loop and then we try to reverse it.
Look at that. Jeez. Oh.
Let's go.
Never mind. She was way too close.
Look at that bounce there. What knee problem?
What? Yeah, that was really 2 slick possessions in a row. We just
Yeah.
look at this. I don't know.
Sliding a little bit.
Refs are human, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you caught a bad one earlier, so that was a makeup call. Oh dang. That was a deep
Yeah, I
one.
remember. That was.
Yeah, Riss is definitely playing better in the second half than she did in the first, both in ball security and offensively trying to score.
Yeah. There's Huber nodding his head.
Right.
He was so I didn't go to practice as much back then as I do now, but he was so intense when I did go.
Was he in your ear, Tritzy, telling you to squeeze some more shots?
Yeah, I'm sure he was telling me the opposite. Trixie, move it. Yeah, he's good confidence boosting coach. You always had Sarah Kane though to help you out. She was emotionally pretty tuned into the squad. And Carrie Moore. She was always pretty stoic during games, very, you know, she was not too animated. She's more like Linda, I would say.
Yeah.
Not as serious, but yeah, just not as animated.
You know what I'm noticing defensively is we were definitely way more butt to the ball are man-to-man than we currently are. So there we run a loop again. Sarah flashes to the foul line. That's another good ball fake by Ken. She looks opposite and goes right back to Riss, and Riss gets the same shot she just hit.
Looks like they finally got out of their zone, though.
Yeah.
That's just tough right there. You can't do it. When she's down that low, you can't really do much about that.
Right.
And she's a right shoulder kid, so
That's not even a foul either.
yeah, that one doesn't seem right. But two of the three called it. So, but I agree. That might be one of those. We got to get Syracuse close tighter so we can keep the people so they don't cut away to another game. Right? Because they probably didn't tell, back in those days it was they didn't telecast as many games, so they had cutaway. You had to cut away. So
The wraparound coverage.
they might have got game close. So yeah, I think you're right, Matt. I think they're going to play some more man here down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think, with some effectiveness, because, when you play 30, 31 minutes of zone, and then now you got to play a little bit of man. And then the other part that you're fighting now at this point is you become a little bit more conservative, especially against their press, because you've got just enough of a lead. You don't want to make bad plays, but this is always a tough part of the game. I think in terms of you put the pedal down if they press, or do you make sure you value the ball above everything else? And
Yeah.
make sure you don't turn the ball over.
I mean, I'm just looking at their, I'm kind of wondering why they even played zone as much as they did, because, they were legitimately 8 deep, and they have so much length. I wonder if they would have been better suited to try to just disrupt you guys with a man defense, but maybe he wasn't terribly confident in their ability to communicate through all of you guys' motion.
Right.
I certainly do. I like teams zone you more than I think that. It surprises me every time teams zone you because of how good you guys are from the perimeter, and even throughout the years. So I think maybe your motion offense. I don't know if you can speak to this at all, but in terms of how much it makes teams communicate, I wonder if that's just something that stresses the man principles too much, where you almost have to play zone a little bit to throw it out of sync.
Yeah, I think there's some of that. I feel like the end of this season was a little bit of a wake-up call, like I said. Like, we need to be – that's a great – again, Marissa looks off the defender, and then Sarah dives. But, yeah, I think to your point, Matt, I think it's I always felt like we maybe were good enough. We didn't need to work on zone offense quite as much. And the end of this season, like losing to Illinois State and seeing this much zone, and how even though we weren't great offensively in terms of production, but our execution was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's something that was a good kind of wake up call for me that we needed to work on it even more. Just because, like you said, teams maybe who are 30% zone think, well, Creighton's hard to guard. We can reduce what we have to do to prepare by playing more zone. So here you see our spacing against the press isn't very good. We're a little too tight. And again, this would have been a 10 count, but we said don't turn it over. And then
basketball guys.
Yeah. But that's a big play, right? A big play right back there to, they get 2 out of the timeout. and the lead was down to 6. It was 10 just a couple minutes ago. So, and again, now I don't know if we're telling them that it's a zone press or we're telling them it's a man, but it's clearly a man press, and we need to just clear out and go. Well, now that one's a zone. So, good job by them kind of making us a little indecisive. And there you have Riss probably turning down a shot she should have taken. But, okay.
It worked out.
Yeah. And again, just how efficient Sarah was. 3 for 3 from the 3 for 3 field goals. Hasn't forced plays, but just has had a major impact on the game.
Mm-hmm. So I remember Sarah could be a kid you could always look down at the box score and be surprised how much she scored, because you notice all the other stuff,
Right.
and you kind of lose sight of what she's actually done from a productivity standpoint in terms of the things that show up on the box score.
Absolutely.
Jalen was a lot like that too. I remember she would have 25 and it felt like she had 10.
Right.
But she was doing so many things. They're just trying to get Syracuse back in the game with the free throw line at this point, looks like.
Yeah.
Can't remember the last time they hit a shot.
I'll be interested. We're 4 guard. I think we came back with Lex at least one more time this last 5.5 minutes, but we've got a small lineup out there now. So rebounding is going to be a challenge, and then Sarah's going to have to fight Alexander one-on-one. Again, ball security is probably when you've got a lead that's this not comfortable, but enough. I think I probably would put the ball security off lineup versus, maybe a little bit better rebounding team or a little bit better defensively. So, again, not a great possession, but we didn't turn it over, and then we get to run more clock. And back in these days, you could run 30 seconds instead of 20.
Right. I don't know what that defense was, but that was terrible.
Beast mode.
I mean, they were not communicating at all. They're just letting cutters run free, and
yeah, that was big. That was a huge possession because you look back at that possession, you don't get a lot of movement. You end up forcing up a bad 3 at the end of the clock, but then you get a new 30 and you get a 3 out of it. So you basically took 45 seconds or more and get 3 points.
mm-hmm. So that's interesting right there, because they went man and got themselves, I think, within 6. Then they went back to the zone, give up the O board, and then they don't communicate on Sarah right there.
I think they're going to go back man here, aren't they?
I think so.
Yeah. So those 4.
I remember that was one of the big talking points. I remember that was one of the big talking points in this game was Syracuse waited too long to get out of their zone, and you guys were killing them. Back cuts, 3s, O boards.
Nice little move.
Mm-hmm.
A beat outside hand, and here's where it's. Well, they've matched up. They are man, but they've got. They had Alexander on Ken's to start that possession, didn't they?
Yeah.
That's big. It just went from 10 to 5.
Right.
Obviously.
Right. 2 possessions. Yeah.
But again, I'm sure we're saying play through Sarah, make Alexander go out on the floor.
Yeah.
and use her as a pressure release, because everybody else is going to be pushed up and pressuring, but they're not going to be able to pressure Sarah with a 6'4" kid who's used to playing in the middle of a 2-3 zone. So my guess is that's going to be a talking point in the timeout is just play through Sarah, make sure she touches it once or twice, and if everybody else is pressured, Sarah, you need to break and pressure relief. But defensively, obviously we're in the boat. They're in the bonus. I don't know what Sarah's foul situation is, but I'm sure we're talking about, whether they have, at this point you're maybe looking at your stat sheet saying, okay, we can give help off one kid. And this is the kid that we want to help off of based on what she did throughout the game. Because the kid, the Fondren kid, the left-handed point guard who started the game, she was the one kid that we felt comfortable helping off of pretty much exclusively. But if she's not in the game, then it was kind of contingent. How much is Alexander hurting us? And then secondly, is there a second person that we can kind of give help to Sarah on?
Carli, what's going on?
Go ahead. You're also saying you're telling them how many timeouts do we have left? What's our foul situation? How many fouls do they have to give? Go ahead.
Carli, what's going through the mind of a player when you're in crunch time of a game of this magnitude, and you built the big lead, you got some momentum, and they cut it in half real quick like that, and now it's a timeout, and you kind of have a reset. Like, what's going through the mind of you and the players as you get into crunch time here and try to figure out ways to finish it off?
Yeah, I mean, these late timeouts are huge, and everything that Flan just said, you got to know that as a player when you go back out there. And you got to know how many timeouts you have. You have to know, what exactly are we okay with doing on defense, because it's not that you have to give something up, but if we are giving something up, like Flynn mentioned, who are we going to help off of? Or how are we going to make Syracuse beat us? Because they're not going to beat us this way, or we're going to be okay with them. If she makes that shot, then it's okay. And then you're also talking about how important rebounding is right now, because you can play defense perfectly and execute all the stuff you just talked about, but we all know if their big kid gets a tap out or an and one off a no board or a three, that's huge. So one shot defense, knowing who exactly we're going off of or who we're focusing on, and then just the time situation, all that stuff. And then, the other side of it as a player is, this is the biggest one, I think, is just emotionally in that huddle. Because as a freshman and sophomore, maybe you're looking to the juniors and seniors, but I can remember as a junior and senior, me, Sarah, Ken, we're all trying to, Allie Jensen, very good, steady leaders, and trying to be emotionally consistent in those high emotion situations.
Right.
I think one thing we don't talk about Allie enough is, we don't talk about her enough in general, but great shooter, never forced things, but just, I think she's one of the most consistent and steady leaders I've played with as well too, just because you can always look at her and her head's always screwed on during a game. She's not too high, too low, and she's, a wizard at the scout. She knows what she's supposed to be doing, because she was kind of like me, late, you have to be better at scouting, but because maybe you're not as explosive or as athletic. So sorry, Allie, for being in that category. I think she'll understand. That's someone you can look to too and ask questions about, and someone that knows that on the court, who's on the court a lot, is huge late in the game.
Well, we had a really good possession. Allie got a wide open three. Again, I'm sure we just said try to move the ball side to side. We just got a little sped up. Again, part of it just when you've played against the zone and now you're playing against a man. That was a good double by Carli. Just a really good quick move by Alexander. So huge possession, right? They're on a 7-0 run. I wouldn't be surprised if we use a timeout.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You know this coach pretty well.
Out of the last time out, we ran a back pick for Marissa because we felt maybe you have to help. So Sarah set a back pick for Marissa, and we felt like they'd maybe have to help, and Sarah would have either an open three or a hard closeout where she could drive it, or maybe Alexander wouldn't even help. But so I don't remember what we drew up here, but my guess is we tried to get Sarah involved, and we're playing. My philosophy probably was, what do we have? How can we get Alexander to have to be out on the floor? Or, the other thing is just how can we create a miscommunication? The possession before where Allie had the wide open three was just a back cut. So we're just going to run a simple ball screen.
Oof.
Go to our left hand. Both that up.
Good board.
That's a big board.
Go back.
Yeah, because they probably got the shot they wanted there. Alexander 2 feet away.
Yeah, I see it. So again, we'll probably throw the ball in and then throw it right back to Sarah, would be my guess. And let her bring it up against Alexander.
Yeah, so that's just about ISOing the right person to attack, basically.
Oh, it's just the cleanest way to make sure we get the ball up the floor. And
ooh, that was
Good looks.
so now you can't give up a three. Now you're under 2 minutes and you got a 3-point lead. You got to make sure that the most they get on a possession is 2. And they get adjustment. Like you see, Alexander wants to go right shoulder, and she caught the ball and had that, and Sarah really kind of got to that right shoulder and forced a tougher shot than if she'd have just played her straight up.
Did we get the timeout? I tried to call one.
I think they call it a jump ball.
I was too busy talking. There's a surprise.
Yeah, I didn't see. I can't remember who lost the timeout there. I think it might have been.
Timeout, 'cause we had
Well,
three.
Flan's,
We had
you guys
three.
have 2 left. Flan saves all of his until the end.
I know. We just had 3, and then we just got a timeout there, and they just took that off. So we must have gotten it.
I was just looking at the box score. Sarah played 37 minutes in this game.
Yeah.
How she has enough energy left to still battle Alexander is crazy.
So let's see if we do the same thing. Nope, we're going to let Ken's bring it. Okay. So
Oh, back pick play. Yeah.
Oh.
This.
What a recovery. Yeah, you guys you guys killed them with back cuts in the second half.
We drew that. I know. We did.
took away the help by overloading.
That was a really good pass by Carli.
Yeah. Are you surprised, Matt?
No, I'm not. I've told people all the time that if she were healthy, she'd have her jersey in the rafters, but no one believes me.
Oh, stop.
So now we're going to really. Now I'm sure we're saying no threes at all. We're not going to. We're going to have Sarah just play 1-on-1.
Mm-hmm. Switching, getting up. And then, like we've been talking about, you got to peel back and rebound. Oh, trouble.
We're gonna spoiler alert people who don't know that you guys won this game. But what was it? I mean, I think you guys just lay with the free throw line the rest of the way. What was it like to get this first NCAA tournament win? You know, under under plan for all the players after the heartbreaker against St. John's the year before, especially. But like we've talked about the history of playing on this court, and then all that went into this game of playing a Big East team, in what everybody probably felt was the last run in the Valley and everything like that. What was it like in the locker room to celebrate this thing, and how much fun, how much of a memory is that as you guys look back on this? Carli, you can start.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is so cool to be a part of history. I think that's every athlete's dream, is to get in the history books and be on those teams, because you put so much work into it. And just like what you said, it was more about the years and teams prior too. I mean, yes, the year immediately before the St. John's buzzer beater loss, but I mean, Flan kind of ran through some of those championship teams that lost 3 championships from 5 points.
Yeah.
I mean, think about those teams, and all those alum, and just the history of how good our program truly is, and then finally just breaking through that little, that's something that's held us back to saying, okay, we went to the NCAA tournament, or saying we finally won a game, because a lot of teams in that era probably should have gone or were good enough to go. So you're doing it for them too, and but it was just, I'm pretty sure I turned this over, so I'm just going to keep talking as a distraction. Oh, yep, I did. I tried to not make history there,
Yeah, she tried to finish.
Anyways, but it was a moment. And just now on the coaching side of it, you think about how big that is for recruiting too, and just taking that next step and knowing we were going to the Big East the next year. It was huge, and it was an honor to be a part of.
Flan, what about you?
Yeah, one of the photos we have in our locker room is me coming into the locker room after this game, and just like Carli's elevation, elevation on their jump as we're entering that locker room. But just when you walk off the court, first of all, when you stand on the court before a game, it's special. But then to walk off the court after an NCAA tournament win that's a different feel. It's just different than anything you'll have, I think, is because it's not just obviously the postseason of that year, not just that year. It's how much your life, the players that they've worked to get to that moment. We finally have a WNBA draft pick, but for pretty much every player who goes through college, like that's it, the NCAA tournament, and to walk off the floor a winner in an NCAA tournament game, that doesn't get much better. Because it's validation that you belong, right? It's not just that you were there, but that you belong.
Right.
You see, they run a little Iverson cut, and now they're kind of stuck. And let's see what their little handoff. You get beat on a layup. Again, though, they're going to have to foul. And Ken's is like, I'm not giving it up. I'm having the game of my life. And this is the time where we didn't have double bonus.
Yeah, it was make one to get the second one, right?
So it was double bonus on 10, not on 5, which it is now. So, but I didn't realize Ken's was 86% from the line, and
big, massive free throws.
They're out of timeouts now, so you're telling your kids, if we're up 3, we're switching 1 to 5, not just 1 to 4. And we might be switching 1 to 5 anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Just you see how Allie takes that switch. We stay high. Good contest. And then you want your kids to know, do you have the jump ball or not?
I love it. Even though they put time back on, that moment was.
Yeah, they still make you guys come back out. Look at Glenn. Look at Glenn. Get off the court.
There he is. I was waiting.
Always ruining the fun.
Hey, somebody's got to.
Yeah, that's a really special moment. Yeah, like Flan said, that's the goal, and not a lot of people get to be a part of that. It's hard to do. Winning is hard, and winning at the best stage is hard.
Mm-hmm. This was a pretty good jump off, though, because I think, all the storylines coming in and just looking at, it was a chance to play a Big East team that was likely headed to the ACC. You guys were headed into the league, and it was like, honestly, every sport, maybe except for volleyball, it felt like volleyball and baseball were the ones where it was like, maybe it's not going to be too much of a challenge, but every other sport I think had huge question marks in terms of where they stacked up with the rest of the conference. And I think this game for Creighton women's basketball was big because all of the things that I think were going to be disadvantages for you going into the league, the size, the athleticism, the length, you faced all of these and you just played Creighton basketball and you controlled the game. Really, it wasn't like Syracuse was in control of this thing. They were chasing you most of the time. It looked like, even though you guys got off to the tough start. So I think it was an eye opener in terms of what Creighton might be able to do at the Big East level, and certainly that has translated ever since, because you've got your league title that you won in 2016-17. You've been in the NCAA tournament twice. You've won games in the tournament. You sent a kid to the WNBA draft. All those things translated. The move was pretty seamless especially when you look back at how daunting it might have seemed at the time. But hey, thanks you guys for hopping on. This was a lot of fun looking back at this, and I'm sure it was a great memory for you guys. I hope you guys had as much fun looking back at it too.
Absolutely.
So we'll have to find another greatest hits here, and hopefully jump back on and look back at some other games down the road. But I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, man. This is awesome. Some good
Really
opportunity during this tough time,
Yeah, really. This was a fun look back.
There it is. There's the actual moment finally.
All right, guys, enjoy it. Thanks a lot for hopping on. Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt.